everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. Back at it with another video. I wanted to talk to you guys all about the upcoming transit of the Sun in Virgo coming into an opposition with Neptune. And you'll get little bits and pieces of just some of my other like astro musings in the midst of this. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I touched on this during my horoscopes. If I didn't, then it's a good thing I'm doing this video, but yeah, I'm not going to check that right now. So many of you guys have asked to have the date range from when the transits are taking place. So this transit is going to be in play pretty much September 14th through the 18th. So we're starting to feel it building. I work with like a 2 to 4 degree orb. Sometimes the transit starts building just prior to the exact aspect. Sometimes you're going to feel it in the days to follow. So it's going to hit everybody a little bit different. If you are a Leo or a Pisces rising, because these are the two rising signs that are ruled both by the Sun and Neptune, you also may feel this a little bit more strongly. Now, the exact opposition is going to be taking place on September 16th, okay? And one thing I want to do is I want to show you guys some of the aspects that are happening on this day and just chat a little bit. I think I touched on this during my weekly, but I didn't really go too far in depth as to why I think that this is just such a significant day. And I really love how just astrology will keep bringing up the same patterns over and over, trying to get our attention. So let's first talk about an opposition. Okay, so we've got Neptune at 24 degrees of Pisces. We've got the Sun here at 24 degrees of Virgo. Now 24 in degree astrology is going to have this very strong connection to what is already a more Pisces or Neptunian energy. We know that 12s and 24s resonate with the energy of Pisces, so it has that Neptunian kind of twist. It can be about things that are hidden, things that are psychic, intuitive, things that might take place in private spaces, back offices, dream worlds, crystal balls, all the fun Neptunian things. Yeah, it's just like a double dose of Pisces energy, which is really, I think, putting more emphasis on this opposition. Now, it's not a strange or unusual transit. We're going to see the Sun oppose Neptune once a year, and it's in play, like I said, for a couple days. Recently, since Neptune, the last number of years, has been in Pisces, we always see this towards the tail end of summer, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, the very beginning of fall. And the archetype, obviously, of Sun in Virgo is the healer, the medicine person. It can be the veterinarian, the nurse, the bartender, anything that is associated with service or servitude. I also think of like, you know, the Vestal Virgins having associations with Virgo and the sacrifice that was made in order to be able to keep the flame alive and taking care of the city. So whenever we're dealing with Virgo energy, there is that sense of playing off of the archetype, both of being of service and also servitude and sacrifice, right? Because of the opposition to Pisces. The reason why I think that this is such a cool transit is because on the 16th, we're also going to see that the Sun is going to be in a square, not just with Neptune, okay? So that's an opposition, that's your 180 degree opposition between these two, but it's also going to be in a square with Mars and the Moon. So we call this aspect where we have both a hard 90 degree angle, a square, and then plus an opposition, a T-square, right? Because this is the T to the square, right here. And oftentimes the moon will trigger transit. So lunar transits can bring up or create some kind of emphasis when it comes into conjunctions and squares with planets. Because the moon is the fastest moving planet, obviously there's going to be a theme for about 24 to 48 hours of that mutable T-square. Why is it mutable? They're all mutable signs, right? We know that mutable is changeable. It represents the energies of Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, which is all about information, beliefs, truth, quest, and knowledge. So when we see these T-squares taking place, these topics or these themes are questioned. It's almost like throwing a monkey wrench into a conversation about like philosophy or religion or culture, and we start to see clash basically happening when we have squares. With a T-square, this will be the focal point. So it's basically saying with the moon coming into Gemini and conjuncting Mars, we're going to be a little bit more communicative. We might be a little bit more intense in how we move about, how we talk, how we write, how we just deal with people in general. So Moon Mars, regardless of the sign, is going to have a little bit of like a heat to it, an impatience to it. And when you throw that into a square with the Sun in Virgo, which is very analytical and it wants to kind of get all the details covered, and also a square to Neptune, which is going to want to go back to bed or go to sleep or hide away. It's almost as if we're having this push that's going to come on the 16th to cut the bullshit, right? To cut through the facade or anything that might be kind of illusions in a way. I'm also fascinated by the fact that this 24 degrees is the exact same place where Mercury will be retrograding back to. So if you guys think back to August 20th, this is when Mercury came into shadow. Remember the Mercury retrograde, even though it's in Libra, the shadow will be taking place at 24 degrees of Virgo, which means it will retrograde back to 24 degrees of Virgo. So we've been in shadow since August 20th. We are going to see that Mercury will retrograde back to this degree and station direct. And that'll be from September 29th through October 5th. So we've got the Sun highlighting the stationing degree of Mercury. So it's almost like Mercury's in his limbo. He's going back because he forgot something. He's uncovering some kind of information. Likely what we're probably going to see on the 16th is lots of issues with miscommunication, with the squares to Neptune, and also the fact that we have the moon and Mars in a mercurial sign. Gossip, slander, lost in translation. These are all like themes that I can kind of think of when we're seeing squares between the moon, Mars, and the sun. But the fact that Mercury is going to retrograde back, station at 24 degrees, still relatively pretty tight opposition to Neptune, and then it will spend September 29th through the 5th, almost a week at this degree. I don't know, there's something that is mystical, magical that needs to be uncovered. There's something that we're still working out. And personally, when I look at this, I was like, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of some punk-ass like little kid throwing a rock into a koi pond. You know? It's like, because Neptune is water, and I can see it being very peaceful and serene, and Virgo being this energy that's like perfect, and it's like earthy and you know, perfection and quiet and peaceful. And then, you know, this moon Mars kind of comes in, and it's somebody who needs to disrupt that, right? So it can be disruptful conversations. It can be disruptful weather, issues with vehicles, things that kind of shake us abruptly out of whatever this Sun opposed Neptune daydream may be. It also reminds me, maybe it's just me, you know, I try to reflect on like my own life and what's going on with the astrology, but it reminds me of like being woken up abruptly, you know, when you're in a deep sleep by an alarm. I'm super Neptunian. I have I have Saturn and Neptune conjunct, and they both make aspects to my Sun. And I have found that I like to wake up on my own terms. I do not like alarms, and I especially do not like alarms that wake me up abruptly. I've been getting up much earlier in this last week or two with this Mercury retrograde, just trying to kind of get into the swing of getting up earlier and getting stuff done. And I started thinking to myself, I was like, I gotta find a better alarm. Like, I wanna wake up to like waves or like birds chirping or, you know, like the Swiss Alps. I don't know, like just something that's going to be more natural and more peaceful. So I'm not being jolted out of my dream space by hearing this like horrific ringtone. It's been bad. I've been getting up at like 5:30, so it's not a very pleasant way to wake up. But once again, reminds me of this Mars transit in Gemini, which happens to be like a cell phone ringer or something like that. So watch for where conversations, conflict, accidents, harsh words, possibly even aggressiveness, or people who rush us kind of try to shake us out of this Neptune haze that we're in. And like I said, what I love about astrology and the cosmos are these synchronicities, you know, these synchronicities that bring us back to the fact that Mercury is stationing at 24 degrees. It is doubling down in a very Pisces degree, bringing up this theme of Sun opposed Neptune. Now, I want to give you guys the Sabian symbol before I get into talking about Sun opposed Neptune energies and themes. So I'm going to be reading here from my Sabian Symbols book, Screen of Prophecy. If you guys are ever wondering what I'm reading, check out my link below. I have an Amazon link with all of the books that I use on the channel, or just things that I'm reading to kind of expand on my astro knowledge. We're going to read 25 degrees of Virgo because it's 24 degrees and change, just barely. This is page 204 for those of you guys who have this book. Virgo 25, a flag at half-mast. The keyword is respect, reputation. The symbol speaks to the final judgments and to the fact that in the end of our efforts, we will be applauded and rewarded and denounced and punished or simply ignored on the basis of their ultimate worth or usefulness to our fellows. The image of a flag at half-mast is a symbol of mourning and respect. The emphasis on public service, the highest values in society created through humanitarian deeds and selfless acts, and the ultimate proof of immortality for any individual that is high tribute and an honored place in history. The underlining theme of the symbol is reputation, or what is believed to be about a person. Positive at its highest, the symbol represents universal respect and appreciation for outstanding civic achievements. The negative is spotlight grabbing and self-serving attempts to take credit for the work of others or satisfaction with superficial appearances and making things look good. The accent is on honoring contributions of some public figure. Today could mark the end of an era in some manner. You might be feeling less than cheerful. Your greatest advantage lies in guarding your reputation, live up to your highest ideals, guard against feeling sorry for yourself or trying to elicit sympathy for your personal difficulties. Complaining about your lot in life can cause others to lose respect for you. Interesting. Stepping stones would be tribute, honor, respect, appreciation, reputation, final judgment, mourning, loss, sorrow. Just reflecting, you know, just because I use the Sabian symbols, not just in you know, work, making these videos and stuff for people and like working with clients, but you know, it was like a year ago today in the midst of these transits that I remember looking at the transits, and like my grandmother was ill and she wasn't doing well, and just knowing that, you know, it was important that I, you know, go and see her soon and like visit, and you know, made the decision to go out there and visit. At the time my family was living in Arizona, my father and also my sister, and go and see my grandmother. And this internal knowing that's like, okay, she's 93, 94, you know, she's been declining, especially since being kind of cooped up as a result of COVID in the community center that she was living in. And just knowing, having dreams about it, and that sent me kind of on my way to make the plans to go and visit her. And in many ways, she was like my mom. You know, I was raised pretty much mostly by my father and my maternal grandparents. So she was definitely my mom. She holds a very special spot in my heart. So I left to go and visit her, and literally the next morning she passed. And it was on a Sun opposed Neptune transit. Now, in many situations, the sun can represent the king, right? But it can also represent our heart, our vitality, our personal power, our creativity, our drive, our will. And also with the opposition to Neptune is going beyond the veil, you know, to the great abyss, transitioning, going to other worlds, other places, dream spaces, things that might be imaginary or otherworldly. So it makes sense that, you know, in the wake of what's going on this year, the sun coming into opposition with Neptune, and also finding out that it's not a king, but also a queen, but actually a queen, excuse me, that is being laid to rest. So we're going to be seeing Queen Elizabeth, you know, her service taking place in the midst of this opposition. If I remember correctly, I think that's what I heard. I think it was like the 15th, 16th, 17th. And perhaps it could be a very sad king with the sun in opposition to Neptune, or we might see a softer side or a more emotional side of public figures or men in general. But the sun, right, the sun in astrology is, it can be symbolic of men, the ego, but I think more it's about our drive, our purpose, our desire. Like when I think of the sun, I think of our identity, and I also think of our glory plan and like what we are here to achieve. Because if we look at the planets almost as like characters, the sun is like the hero. So it's like this overarching storyline of, you know, all of the trials and tribulations that the hero goes through before he ultimately kind of gets to the end. Anyway. When we look at Neptune, which is more about the spiritual body, right, the soul, visions, dreams, illusions, it's divine, mysterious, imaginary, and it's also about other worlds. But there can also be this sense of getting lost in the waves of Neptune and getting lost in a dream world or daydreams or getting drunk, stoned, being under the influence, having psychedelic experiences, right? So obviously there's pros and cons to each of the planets, but I think in this situation, perhaps the opposition is more so challenging next to the Neptune conjunction. So when you're dealing with the opposition, some themes that I've kind of written down, and I think this would be like the large overarching theme for the whole transit, is like trust falls. So you guys remember like being little kids and, you know, you got somebody standing behind you and you put your hands over your chest and then you fall backwards, right? Knowing and, or I guess hoping that you were going to be caught and that you weren't going to fall backwards and hit the ground. That sun opposed Neptune is like, where is the faith? Can we trust and believe in what we're being told or what we're seeing or what we're feeling? Having to take trust falls, I think, in our lives right now, and having to focus on cutting through, like I said, the bullshit. Now, for some of us, this is going to take an energy that's more about surrendering, being more passive, but we want to watch for not dropping out and feeling defeated, because that's going to kind of literally defeat the purpose of the sun opposed Neptune, which is where we need to take a step back, kind of ground our energies out, and not push. Like it's important not to push. You know, those of you guys who have like gone like surfing, or if you do anything out in the waves, you know that you don't go into the wave, you go under, and you kind of go with the flow of how those sets are coming in, right? So I want you to think about it like that. You have to go with it. So sometimes you have to go under. We got to break the energy down, even if that means that we feel fatigue or tired or that we need to like rest, because I think for many of us, fatigue does come with the Sun-Neptune opposition. It's going to be about how we manage that fatigue and why the fatigue is coming up. And if it's likely because we're just psychic little sponges, we're absorbing too much, but are we not managing our boundaries, right? Are we allowing there to just be this kind of like open space that people are kind of absorbing and kind of taking from? Are we giving away too much? Are we doing too much? Are we sacrificing too much? Do we need to focus more on our boundaries so that way we can kind of get a better hold on our energy levels? Now, for some, this can also feel like nervous breakdowns. Breakdowns before there's breakthroughs. So keep in mind that Neptune is very foggy. It doesn't make sense. It can be very confusing. It can also be a time of crisis for some. This is a quick moving transit, but for those of you guys who have placements, you know, really anywhere, I would say 24, well, not even that, 22 to 26 degrees, right, of the mutable signs, right? So that would be Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, Sag, especially Sag. I'm very curious to see how this plays out for you, because this will be a grand fixed cross, because, a grand mutable cross, because we're going to be seeing it include the other signs. So I guess I should be doing this. There we go. Very, very Neptunian of me. There we go. So you might find that this is a day where you're realizing that your faith or your philosophy or your belief is just changing across the board. But nervous breakdowns, right? I've seen Neptunian people run and hide, turn to substance abuse, sugar, isolation, dropping out, just literally hiding out, you know, just mysteriously skipping town and leaving town and not turning up for long periods of time. I mean, we see this energy when we see Neptune energy. And a lot of this is because, similar to Pisces, Neptune needs the ability to go and rest and recuperate, or to daydream and lose itself in creativity and music and sound, because these are also things that are associated with Pisces and Neptune. But we can have breakthroughs. So for some of us, you know, it's about, like I said, going into those waves and allowing ourselves to go deeper into that energy and consciously working with it by choosing to go, okay, I know this energy is going to be around for the next couple days. I'm going to be abstaining from alcohol. I'm going to be getting, you know, better rest. I'm going to be taking that 15 minutes to meditate. I'm going to be actively taking time to be alone on my own, to reflect. These are the kinds of things that we want to do when we're having Neptune aspects, so we can actively work with that archetype and kind of welcome that energy into our life in a positive way. Now, with Neptune oppositions, we can also see that hidden things come to the surface. It's very possible that something that could be scammy, something that could be dishonest, something that was hidden is suddenly starting to appear. And I really think that even more so, knowing that the sun is highlighting the degree that Mercury is going to come retrograde back to. So if you're tuned in enough during this transit, it's very likely that sometime closer to when Mercury retrogrades and it comes back to these degrees at the end of September to early October, you may be able to go, okay, this is that feeling that I had, or this dream that I had. I don't know if it's just me. I mean, like right now, you know, the retrogrades, it's on my ascendant, but it's been dipping into my 12th house. And it's been about a consistent 5 or 6 days that I've had very, very vivid dreams, which is not totally unusual for me, but I mean in a row, like every day. And I'm getting into the habit of getting up and writing all the dreams down and the symbols and breaking them down. And then I'm kind of like spooked to realize that the symbolism connected to some of these dreams are very, very, very accurate in terms of the symbolism in my life. So I'm anticipating this transit as being kind of like the breakthrough moment that's like, okay, the conscious and the subconscious are a lot closer than I think we give them credit for, and how can I start working with that more kind of mystical, magical Mercury retrograde to help realign and redirect where it is that I'm going with some of my purpose, right? So as these hidden things come to the surface, we can also have moments of disillusion, dissolution of oneself, right? Or like ego dissolution, identity crisis, like who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? What's the point? Like maybe it's all the Virgo energy, but I find myself asking myself that quite a bit recently. Like, why are we here? Like, what are we doing? And like, what am I doing? And like, what's the point? But I realized that that's also part of the process of kind of working our way out of the Neptunian waves, really working with Mercury to get grounded and get realistic about our dreams. But for some of us, you can find yourself kind of stuck in this like endless loop of losing yourself, or perhaps finding that you're wanting to kind of glob onto or merging with other people. We can see that in the midst of practicing that Neptunian oneness, some of us can lose our boundaries, right? Our perception can be totally off. We're trying to merge into other people or merging into the collective, and we lose ourselves in the process, and we end up kind of feeling like a little cult leader. You know what I'm saying? I would also say watch for mystical perceptions of reality. So there can be a sense of, especially with Mercury that's going to be retrograding back to Virgo. The sun's in Virgo, which is very grounding. It's giving us lots of support. The sun's also building, right, into a trine with Pluto over the next couple days. So there can be a sense of like new power structures that are forming and feeling healthier, and like we have better habits, or that we feel more so in control of our destiny and feeling like we can get the job done. But I think that building on the mystical perceptions, is it an illusion? You know, was it all just a dream? Was it something that you mistook? Was it lighted wrong? Was something manipulated? Was it altered? Especially when we're looking at television screens, stuff that's on the media, things like that, there is very likely going to be a video that's going to go around, or a picture that's going to go around, or a clip that's been altered, and everybody's probably going to share it like wildfire with the moon conjunct Mars, and everybody's going to go, did you see that image? Did you see that picture? You know, just something I've noticed recently. Okay, I'm not going to speculate whether this is true or false. I have to say this. But there's just been this uptick that I've seen in social media of people talking about like 9/11 and a lot of like people's accounts of 9/11 and people who were there claiming what they really saw and whether or not they actually saw planes hit a building. And anyway, I can go on and on. I'm not going to because I don't want to speculate because I don't know. I wasn't there. But I find it interesting that there's just this emphasis on people saying, well, you know, we've studied the images, we've looked at the video, the way that the buildings fell, the way that the buildings caught fire doesn't make sense. There's something off here, right? That's very much like the Mars and Gemini twins, right? Twins, two twin towers coming into a square with Neptune and also the Sun and Mercury. So you've got people on both sides who are speculating, people saying, I was there, or my brother was there, or my sister was there, my husband was there. And then you've got people who are stepping forward going like, I was at the Pentagon, or I was at the, you know, this level, and like, we didn't see anything. And now they're comparing the way that everything burned and then it fell. These are the kinds of things that we're going to start to see, that there is a return of a second opinion, right? Some call it, you know, a war on truth. Other people are calling it, you know, false information. Fact checking is going to be really hardcore in the midst of this. I think the one silver lining is that we are seeing that the moon will then come into a trine with Saturn. So it's wanting to kind of structure things. It's wanting to kind of lasso and solidify and kind of ground out some of these ideas or things that are being shared. By the same token, trines can be free-flowing. So this can also be censorship, being like, hey, we don't want this getting out. We don't want people talking about it. We don't want it being shared. So we can see censorship coming from this as well. So I think that I would be very careful with what I'm sharing and reposting on these particular days. It's really, like I said, it's really going to run from the 14th through the 18th, and just try to use your best judgment. And if you don't know, don't say it, don't reshare it. That's the big advice that I would give you guys. Sacrificing the self or goals, and a lot of this can be very much tied to, but this is my mission, this is my purpose, you know, I have to do this, especially because it's involving the sun. So I would say watch for where we make sacrifices for good, where we're giving to others, we're more sympathetic, we're more emotional, we're more connected and checked in with boundaries, and watch for where you're giving so much that you're just giving everything away for free, really kind of taking it in the shorts and finding that it's having an effect negatively on your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, right? Your schedule, these things that are very much tied to Virgo. But many of us can also have that turning point where we have an epiphany and have like a very divine or spiritual or religious moment, and we feel very connected, and somehow we have like a download and we realize what our mission and our purpose is. I want to remind you guys that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets that are retrograde right now. Lots of internal work. We've got lots of stuff going on a personal inner kind of dialogue level. A lot of things are not intentionally moving forward because we are now working through this. And it's going to take some time, at least until the better part of when Saturn goes direct, Mercury goes direct, you know, Jupiter's going to be retrograde for some time. Mid-October is looking a little bit better in terms of having a little bit more clarity moving forward. And I guess last and not least would be just thinking about oneness, right? And how we are connected, how everything is connected. I was watching the Little Mermaid trailer. I don't know if anybody has seen that. It's very short. There's not much to it, but maybe it's just me, like being a 90s kid and growing up was definitely one of my favorite Disney princesses. So I'm really excited to see a new Little Mermaid coming out. I think it's spring of next year. I think it's either March or May of 2023. But regardless, absolutely stunning. The very short clip that we see where you see like Ariel that's sitting at the bottom of what appears to be like an underwater cavern. You know, that famous scene where she's like looking up and she's like singing, and then you like see all the fish. But it's like a real life version now. So it really looks like she's sitting at the bottom of the ocean. Gorgeous, obviously donning her shells as a bra and her tail and her beautiful locks. and she starts singing, and you see this, like, you hear this like very angelic voice, and then you see her, and her hair is kind of floating. I mean, you have to see it. Go look at it. And I remember just watching it being like, wow, that's so Neptunian, just being taken back by the stunning visual ability of them being able to manipulate that and make it look so real and really make it look like she's underwater. If you guys ever saw any of the background for the animators for the original movie, The Little Mermaid, they talked about how they fashioned the way that Ariel's hair moved after seeing female astronauts in space and watching their hair kind of move around in that zero gravity, because they didn't know how to actually make it, you know, animated in the movie. So they used that as inspiration. So it just, I don't know, watching that and thinking about it, and seeing that all kind of come full circle now as an adult, and seeing it all come to life in like a very mystical, magical way is like super cool. Maybe it's just me because I'm very Neptunian. I still have hope that we're gonna find Atlantis. I keep hoping that Jupiter's retrograde back into Neptune may bring this thing about. So in closing, I'm hoping that you guys can have boundaries. I'm hoping that you have some positive spiritual experiences, some breakthroughs, that you are able to take time to ground, to connect to nature. You know, one of the best things that we can do with that sun in Virgo is to work with the element of earth, not just water, right? Because by putting our feet in the earth or our hands in the earth, and connecting and balancing that out can be really helpful. Drink lots of water, right? Try to abstain from alcohol. Try to abstain from recreational drugs. If you can replace that with hot water, lemon, any herbs that you can steep in, like ginger. Spend time by the beach or by water, right? If you can't, then definitely integrate and work with that element of earth. Ground your energy out, meditate, sleep, right? Rest, because a lot of these things might actually come in altered states that we can get through meditation or rest or chanting and incorporating sound, so that way we can allow ourselves to be able to receive this information and connect to a higher power. I'll leave it at that, guys. Let me know, where is this transit happening for you in your chart. You want to take a look at where Pisces and Virgo are. It's going to be different for each and every one of you, so you have to check out your birth chart or look at a birth chart calculator. You can do that online for free, or you can book a session with me. Click on my links below. You can go to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can get on my books. I have selected time available until the end of the year, because I'm getting back into teaching in the fall, and in the new year I've got some webinars and things that are coming up as well. So if you guys want to check out my website, I would be happy to have you join me. We're going to be doing some stuff this month on relationships. Next month we've got some eclipse webinars that's all going to be about the eclipses and magic, working with both Venus and Mars, and some other fun things that are coming. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. You'll get alerted as to when there's new videos coming out. We've got new stuff coming out 4 times a week, hopefully more pretty soon. And I will leave it at that. So you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. I'll see you soon.